Hi, hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. It's been a little while since I made a video. I should have specified at the end of the last one of these that I made that I'll be answering your Q&A questions in a week's time, but like a week the following year. So yeah, I'm really sorry about that. But I'm back. I've got a new camera, some new lights, so it should all look a bit more professional and a bit better than it did before. You can see my aging face in 4K now. But yeah, I just wanted to dive into some of the questions that you asked me on my last video. Quite a few of the comments on the last video were related exclusively to like production and, you know, what free versions of these plugins would you recommend? I will be answering those in the form of proper videos reviewing other plugins going forward. So yeah, if I don't answer those questions, I'm sorry. Anyway, let's get into it. This is my 10K Q&A. Any updates on your vocal EP? Yes, actually. And I know that my vocal EP is this like infamous thing that I've been promising for years is happening, or saying that I'm working on stuff. And it just has never actually happened. But like usually what happens is I'll like go through like a breakup or something and then be really into the idea of writing a vocal EP and write all of these sad songs, but then like a couple of months later I'll start feeling better and then just not be bothered with them anymore. But I am now currently in the process of conceptualizing a proper vocal EP, so that is quite exciting. It won't be the same vocal EP that I'd promised before. It probably won't have any of my voice on it. My plan with it is to effectively create like a collaborative EP where I work with singers and other like producers, people who can actually sing and write good lyrics, to release an EP of collaborative vocal tracks, but it will be like my style of music with their vocals on top of it. So that's currently something that I'm working on and thinking about quite a lot. I'll share a proper update at some point, but like I should have a single from it before the end of the year. Which I know is quite a long time, but I'm trying to take more time on things now than I used to, instead of just like pumping stuff out as much as possible. So yeah, so the vocal EP is still happening, I promise. Do you get royalties for the music you use in music libraries and film scoring? Does that fall under publishing? So the short answer is yes. With library music, the business model tends to be that you will write and deliver a bunch of tracks for them, and they will take them into their catalogue, and then whenever those things are used in a TV show or an advert that's broadcast, you get a royalty based on whatever the royalty rates for that show are and the time that it's broadcast and how many minutes are used and how many times it's broadcast. And the normal split is 50% for the library, 50% for you. So it's just a 50-50 split down the middle. And the royalties themselves are collected and distributed by a company like PRAERS in the UK, or I think in America it's ASCAP and BMI. So the libraries won't be the ones that are sending you your money, you'll be getting them in like quarterly royalty statements. And there are two different types of royalty as well. There's the performance royalty, which is usually just called like the writer's share, and you legally have to get at least 50% of that. But then there's also the mechanical royalties, which are also, I think, known as like publishing. I think it depends on like if it's an American company or a British one. I think what we in the UK would refer to as mechanicals, in America they just call it the publishing. But I don't know, like it's stupid, isn't it? I've been doing this professionally for like 3 years. I still don't understand all of it. But the mechanicals can be taken away from you. It's not uncommon at all for a company to offer you an upfront fee for the music in exchange for them retaining the mechanical right. It's up to you if that's a deal you want to take. Obviously, it's easy for people to say, oh, you should never give away too many of your royalties. But at the same time, if you're young and starting off, often you just need to actually have money right now so that you can pay your rent, and you know, it's just a personal preference. And there are some companies that offer upfronts and still give you 50% if you're mechanicals as well. So that's the ideal situation. If they pay you like £15,000 a track and you keep all of your royalties, that would be lovely. But in general, yes, with library music, that is how you make your money, through royalties that you earn when something is broadcast. Now, when it comes to things like film scoring, it's still possible to earn royalties from it, depending on what sort of level you're at within the industry, because you know, if you do a student short film, it's unlikely that that film is going to be broadcast in, you know, cinemas across the UK for months at a time. It depends, because I do more library music than working to picture these days. I do want to do more working to picture, but in general, a lot of the short films that I've done in the past, I did them under the presumption that I wouldn't be making a huge amount of money from royalties going forward. But it entirely depends on the project and what's going on behind the scenes. If one of my mates asked me to write the music for his film, that he was just doing a 5-minute film for the sake of a uni portfolio, I wouldn't expect any royalties off the back of it. I'd just be charging a fee for my time on it, and I would Also make sure that I retain all of the ownership of the music, because you never know with things like that. One thing that you can do is you can put it up on Spotify and distribute the score that way. If you still own it, you can control what you do with that, and then maybe one of those tracks gets onto a playlist that gets used by a coffee shop in the UK, and then you will be earning royalties. So always register your music with the society that you're a member of, just in case things like that happen. But yeah, with films, I'm not super experienced at that side of things, to be honest. But yeah, with library music, that is definitely how you earn your money. I am planning on making more videos that go into detail and depth about library music and advice for people trying to get into library music as well. So yeah, there'll be more on that topic at a later date. If I only write music on a casual basis, is it still possible to get tracks placed in libraries? Any tips on how to do so effectively? Yes, absolutely, that is possible. In fact, the vast majority of composers who go into library music start off doing it on a casual basis, because library music is not an area that you should get into if you want to make a quick buck, okay? It takes years sometimes for your royalties to come through. You know, if I wrote some music that was used on an episode of, I don't know, Hell's Kitchen in America, it would potentially be 2025 before I see those royalties coming through. You know, this whole thing takes a long time, and it's about building up a portfolio of things that are all making a little bit of money, and then that adds up. I'm gesticulating so much, aren't I? But yes, definitely possible if you're just doing music on a casual basis. I would for sure recommend that you try and get some music on libraries. The one thing I would say is, if you're doing music on a casual basis, the music that you submit should still sound professional. So don't send demos over that are some random sketch idea that you came up with. Tips for getting involved would just be to produce, you know, one album's worth of material in the style that you are most efficient at writing in and most competent in. So if you're really, really good at, you know, chilled electronica, write like 8 to 10 tracks in that style, do them as well as you can, best production, best mixing that you can, and then just send them off to a library. A lot of companies have got submission portals that you can send albums to. Just do that and see what happens, and you might hear nothing back, and that's fine. Then you can find a different company and send it to them. But yeah, doing music casually is no reason to not submit music. Most people in composition these days started off doing it casually. I did myself. I was working in the Bose shop in Cardiff for a couple of years after uni, and then after that I was doing work as an extra on TV and film sets for a while, so that was just so I could pay my council tax bills. That's actually how I ended up in this pivotal sex education scene.
Read this fucking book.
Hi, sorry, could you sign my book? Yeah. Great, thanks. What's your name?
So cringe. You know, the first time I had to do that line, I overestimated what they meant by interrupting, because in the script it was like, I interrupt the conversation. And Otis wasn't finished saying his line, and I just like charged over like, can you sign my book? And then like I got told off by Asa Butterfield. Like, he didn't tell me off, he just spoke to a producer who then spoke to me. Asked me very politely to not cut off the end of his line, which is fair enough. Anyway, yeah, music, write it, pitch it, and be patient. What's been the hardest part about creating so much music, and how do you stay so inspired? So the hardest part about writing lots of music is also the key to being able to write lots of music. I've written a lot of music, and again, I don't promote it or post it on this channel because so much of it is for library companies. Like hundreds and hundreds of tracks I've written. The key to being able to do that and to be inspired is basically learning how to write when you're not inspired, and that will then enable you to constantly write. But it takes a while to like figure that out, you know. It's not something that you can just like snap your fingers and do it, because it's really, really tough if you're mentally and or physically exhausted and you just want to, I don't know, sit around and play Elden Ring and eat pizza. The last thing you want to do is try and write music, which is a fundamentally like, it's a creative thing. It's something that, you know, there's, without sounding too much like a hippie, there's some like, you know, magic in the art of creation and making something that you think is beautiful or is interesting. And it's hard to do that when you're knackered and you just want to play PlayStation. But the ability to do so is kind of a necessity for this job. If you're writing the music for an advert, of which the deadline for everyone involved is in 2 days, you can't just email and be like, yeah, sorry bro, I'm not feeling the inspiration right now, you know? It's not something that you can do. I mean, well, you can do it, but you'll get fired and then not hired again consecutively. So it's something that you have to learn how to do it. But once you've learned that, it's kind of easy. It's easy with certain things than others. You know, if I'm writing a quirky tension album, then I know how that sounds. I don't need to feel inspired to do that. But for my own singles, there are some times where I know that I should release something, but I haven't, and I kind of just have to sit down to be like, right, come up with something. And a lot of it is just experimentation at that point. Just play with a synth until you hear something that you're like, oh, I quite like the sound of that. That's interesting. I believe quite heavily in this famous quote that inspiration will come, but it has to find you working. You know, inspiration is not this mythical beam of light that comes down from the heavens and just blesses you with a perfectly formed song or idea. Often the times that I've written the music I'm the most proud of have been in moments of struggle where I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to progress it forward or make it into an interesting, coherent track, but I just stick at it and just be like, okay, well, I'll work at it for another half an hour. And at some point in that half hour, something will switch. And then before I know it, it's been like 2 hours and I haven't even been looking at the clock because I've just been working on the track. But it's just practice. Just gotta practice. Just getting used to writing music at any point of the day is useful. I remember when I was at uni, I gave myself this exercise where I was gonna write a piece of music every day for a month. I think it still exists somewhere. I called it like November music. It's shit. But I just gave myself this task where I was like, every day I'm gonna write a piece of music. It can be just a drone or a 30-second piano motif, but I'm going to write a piece of music every day. It'll be a good habit to be in, to know that I can just write something. But yeah, I don't look for inspiration. I find myself to be most inspired when I've done the thing and I listen back and I can be like, wow, I'm proud of that. That's an interesting idea. The music I write causes the inspiration rather than the music being caused by a source of inspiration, I suppose. Loved your last 2. Vinyl, will you be releasing another anytime soon? Oh, and congrats on 600k listens on Fractal. Thank you for the kind words. Yes, I will be releasing another vinyl. I don't know of what and I don't know when, but I absolutely do plan on doing that. I haven't for a while now because releasing something on vinyl, I feel like it has to be a really coherent work. And for the last couple of years, I've just been releasing singles. I mean, I could get like all of the singles pressed onto a vinyl, but it would just be a bit of a waste of resources for something like that. So yeah, the vocal EP may well end up being pressed. And also I'd love to get some of the PRAERS material that I work on released on vinyl as well. You should listen to PRAERS. There'll be links in the description because it's a project that I work on with good friend Joe Banfi, and we actually won an award at the Production Music Awards for Cave Water. So yeah, listen to PRAERS. It's award-winning music. Got here from your emetophobia video, and I'm wondering if you overcame it, or if it got better at least. Sometimes I feel like I'm never going to get over it. I'm really, really sorry that that's something that you're experiencing. I know firsthand how fucking shit emetophobia is. The short answer is yes. I'm much better than I used to be. And again, this is something that I'm going to make a proper video about addressing, because I'm always like blown away by the really nice comments and messages that I get from people about that one video that I made about emetophobia years ago, and I don't even like that video. I hate looking back at anything that I have previously done on YouTube, at least back in the era when I was putting on more of a YouTuber personality, like making everything way too overdramatic. But yes, no, it does get better. I am at a point now where it is something that is occasionally a nuisance in my life, as opposed to what it has been where it's felt like it is the center of my world and everything else has to be fit around that center. So at the risk of repeating a cliche, it does get better. Yeah, it gets better, but I know it doesn't always feel like that. And even now, you know, I have my moments. Keep going. Try not to be too demoralized with it. It does get better, and I'm like 90% better than I was at my worst, I suppose. So yeah, it'll be good. It's all fine. Great review for some amazing plugins, but they total $600. Could you recommend some free or budget plugins for producers that aren't making money on the music? You're absolutely right. I should have included some of that in that original video, but I will certainly be going into more detail about plugins that I use in all different ranges going forward. Off the top of my head, I know that OTT by, I think it's Xfer Records is a really cool, like, aggressive multi-band compressor. And there's this company called Soundhack, which do insane plugins, and they're all free. What genre of music do you produce / compose? Now, I'm not even really sure about this myself, to be honest. Where library music is concerned, I write whatever genre I'm asked to write. That could be quirky chamber pizzicato strings, or dark drones, ticking tension, you know, anything like that. Sad piano, happy piano, and then like neutral piano as well, which is always kind of the hardest one to do. But where my own music is concerned, I don't really know anymore. I often use the sort of blanket term, you know, ambient and neoclassical. And I know that like neoclassical is a funny term, because I get people questioning me about this, including like my sister was really confused when I say like neoclassical to her, because she is like a violinist who went to Royal College of Music, and there is an actual group of neoclassical composers, none of whom are included in most people's like list of who they think are neoclassical composers now. It basically just means like quite chilled, quite pretty, often with some strings. I feel like that's what ambient / neoclassical means these days. And piano, obviously, front and center. But really, there are influences from so many different artists and composers alike. I don't really know, because I mean, I listen to loads of metal, I listen to loads of like techno and house. I used to try and be more genre specific with things, and it's good for algorithms, you know, if you want to write lo-fi hip-hop, make the most obviously lo-fi hip-hop track than you can. I try to not think about something I'm writing from the perspective of a genre, at least when I start off. There are some times that I'll be like, I definitely want to write a solo piano piece. I don't like genres, and not from like that pretentious sort of, oh man, genres are way too constricting, bro. Like, just let the music be free. But more just from the perspective that I think it's good to embrace the things that make your music different. So it's the whole finding your own voice thing. So I just don't really think about it. If I'm in the middle of writing a track that's kind of minimal house and I want to chuck some like symphonic horns on top of it, then I'll do that. Or a slide guitar, or like, I don't know. I just see where the music takes me, man. On DistroKid, when I'm uploading a track, I just use the alternative electronica like genre for most of it. So yeah, those are all the questions really. I mean, like I said, there were loads of questions about like plugins and advice about this reverb versus that reverb and all of these other things that I will be making more content about moving forward. But I just thought that for my first video back, it'd be nice to do a sort of simple talking head thing. Thank you so much for the support that you give to my channel. I know some of you have been watching for years and years and years, and it's just amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you for the support for the music that I write as well. It's yeah, means everything to me. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll see you soon.